The sound type. This is the most popular Pokemon typing that isn't canon yet, but where did it originate? To answer that, we'll have to take a look at Pokemon Xenoverse, the incredible fan game full of new Pokemon, a parallel dimension, and Wallace Daddy. Not only will we be taking on Team Weedle's masterpiece, but I'll be beating Pokemon Xenoverse with only sound types. As if this isn't hard enough already, I'll also be following the rules on screen now. With all that said, let's get into it. The game begins with our father Versal coming to greet his newborn and wife Clover. After naming us CGA, 5 years pass and we're called down from our room. Our dad decides he's finally gonna show us some of the world outside of our little ranch. While on the tour, we come across 3 Pokeballs and Versal lets us pick one as our starter. The options in this game are Shyleon the Grass Fairy, Shulong the Water Dragon, and our pick, Trishout the Fire Sound type. Which of these starters are your favorite? Comment for Shyleon, drop a like for Shulong, and subscribe for Trishout. Just then, a mysterious man and his Tyranitar attack. When we come to, we're definitely older and it seems like that was just a nightmare. Turns out that's far from the case. Our mom tells us 11 years have passed since that fateful day and she's been lying that dad's been away for work the whole time. After we were attacked by the Tyranitar, we both disappeared, but a few days later I turned back up with Trishout by my side. After telling her that I want to search for Versal, we get grounded, but Trishout has the great idea to jump out the window and make a break for it. Mom catches us and after going Ultra Instinct, she makes us battle for our freedom. We barely get by her Jigglypuff, but then she loosens up and sends us off on our journey through the Eldiw region. Before going anywhere, we need to get our second team member, Triangle the Kricketot. Not only does this game introduce a bunch of new Pokemon, it also retypes some pre-existing ones to be sound. Anyway, we continue on to Hadwarf City where we're introduced to Aster and his Suicune. Guess someone's OP. He then tells us that our dad was his mentor and that he conducts research concerning X-Pokemon, variants of Pokemon from our world that come from the Xenoverse. He tells us that an X-Pokemon set the town on fire and to help him go after it. On Route 2, I run into one of the most important Pokemon of this run, Bremond. See, sound types are weak to Electric and Dragon, resisted by Psychic, and are strong against Flying, Fairy, and Water. Bremond has 4 different forms, all being sound with different secondary typings. This form, the Guitarist, is part Electric. That means this is one of the only viable encounters for me that isn't weak to Electric. With Ensemble on the team, we can take on the first mini-boss of this game, Elekid X. These X-Pokemon have multiple health bars along with boosted stats. Luckily, we have a level advantage, so it just takes some babbles from Trumpet to give us the win. With that taken care of, we gain access to the first gym where we can take on Basil and his grass types. A few embers from Trishout take out his lead Morlul, bringing in the Ace Spiritomb X. With some help from a metronome, our starter is strong enough to 2-shot with embers, making for an easy win and our first badge. From here, we meet up with Mr. Briny, whose Pico evolved into Pelipper. Just like old times, he gives us a ride across the ocean and we arrive at Proxim Island. Oh no, somebody's gotta let my guy down easy. Well, I tried. When we return to Aster's lab, we're given the Pokewess, a high-tech glove that will act as our Pokedex, town map, and HM service. Next, we board the SS Comet where Triangle evolves into Kricketune. Ah, music to my ears. On board, we meet this man named Taraxo who gives us a secret potion to stop the captain's seasickness. Unfortunately, before we can give it to him, a crew member says we're being attacked by a wild school of Sharpedo. Everything goes black and we wash up on shore of Darkhole Island. On the ruins of the old ship, we find the brutal Pokemon horde, but its leader has something different about it. It's an X-Pokemon. After tanking an Aqua Jet, Bremond is able to sing the shark to sleep and win the battle with 3 Thunder Shocks, landing the last one through confusion. Following the battle, we run into Taraxo again, who saved the ship's crew with his Alakazam's teleport. We then use the ability to travel to the man's home in Polaris Town. From here, we can get to Neutron City, where a robot drops what appears to be an earring, and we pick it up. We quickly learn that these robots are actually grunts of the evil Team Dimension who have taken over the city. We also meet Alice, a trainer with a Pikachu from the Xenoverse. I guess not all X Pokemon are bad. In the town library, we meet two robots who say they're Team Dimension sergeants, calling themselves A and B. The town's gym leader Ginger decides to take the pair on in a double battle with us, and can I just mention how cool it is that they gave B a shiny Pawniard to match his color scheme? As the robots are about to take us out, the earring I picked up reacts with the terrestrial plate in the glass case. This forms an item called the terrestrial ring, which, once held by Trishout, changes it into its terrestrial form. We take the two Pawniards out, and then as Team Dimension flees, Ginger tells us we've obtained the essence of the planet, the Earth core. Next, we have an easy battle with Alice before finally getting the chance to take on Ginger for our second badge. As you'd expect of any jock, this guy uses fighting types, but his team is tough for mine to deal with. After a few losses, I finally had the battle go like this. Triangle starts by missing two Sings as Passimian lands quick attacks for half our health. On turn 3, we connect, so now the monkey is taking a little nap. By the way, I'm going to be relying on sleep a lot in this playthrough, which made a large portion of the gyms and bosses super difficult. Now I swap Trumpet in and use Howl to get to +1 attack as Ginger's lead wakes up and hits quick attack. At +1, it takes 2 Fire Fangs to get the KO, and the leader already used the super potion. Next, the jock goes to his ace, Pyukumuku X. Since Passimian scary faced us, we're outsped for a smackdown kill by the football Pokemon. Sadly, Triangle gets the same treatment as she comes in on the following turn. Now it's all up to Ensemble, who isn't weak to rock, so after losing a third of her health, she lands Sing. We only get a 1-turn sleep as we're brought down to 19 HP before a pair of Charge Beams gets the knockout. Last is Hawlucha, and even though I outspeed, I know a single Charge Beam without a boost isn't strong enough to win. Luckily, Bremen connects another Sing on the bird as it hits the field. With that, it just takes 2 more Charge Beams to get the kill, earning us the second badge. As we leave town, we see a brooding figure who claims the power we awakened will soon be his. On Route 5, I catch myself 2 more sound types, Drowsy and Audino, giving us a team of 5. As we're passing through Stellato Town, the boy who was watching us reveals himself to be Trey and challenges us to a battle with his partner Sabolt. We take them down and then the duo disappears before we can get a word in. We continue on to Sting Forest where we get our 6th teammate, Tuba the Ekans. We then run into a group of kids tied to some trees with spider webs. Enter Galvantula X. This ice bug is 4 times weak to Trishout, so it just takes 2 Fire Fangs to save those kids, and then we're off to Route 6 to catch our 7th sound type and 3rd new mon, Hysteric, who's dual grass. Onward to the Milky Way City castle/gym where we need to overcome 3 trials to gain the right to challenge the princess to battle. First, we take down a level 30 Druddigon, then beat a fishing minigame, and while partaking in the 3rd trial, which is just fighting gym trainers, we hatch an egg we were given into an Eevee. We can now take on Princess Vanilla and her fairy types. She leads Mimikyu, who woodhammers as Triangle connects his first Sing. After busting the Alolan's disguise, I swap to Ensemble, but it's a 1-turn wake up, so we're hit by Shadow Sneak on the switch in. Bremen is able to land another Sing and then screeches the fairy type as it wakes up and retaliates with a not very effective Dazzling Gleam. We hit our 3rd Sing straight and then I bring Trumpet in to take advantage of the -2 defense. Naturally, another 1-turn wake up means we're Shadow Sneaked on the switch, but what's even worse is next turn a crit Woodhammer leaves our starter with only 20 HP as we get our first KO with Fire Fang. Next, the princess goes right to her ace Slurpuff and I bring Eevee in for a sack. Even though he's not a sound type yet, I'm allowing myself to also use Pokemon that evolve into sound types. With that, it's a clean switch to Ensemble as we go 4 for 4 on Sings and screech the Meringue Pokemon twice. The maximum sleep turns in this game is 3, so knowing a wake up is coming, I can sack off Hysteric and get Ensemble back into Thunder Wave without taking damage. Our electric type survives Thunderbolt, which means we can use our last sack, Drowsy, and then get Trishout back in. Surprisingly, a -4 defense Fire Fang isn't strong enough to kill, but we get a lucky paralysis. Knowing a heal is coming, I take the opportunity to Howl and then get a guaranteed knockout. Last is the princess's own ex-Pokemon, Smeargle, but since the fairy type only has not very effective damaging moves, we can Fire Fang, Howl on the heal, and Fire Fang one more time to win the battle and get badge number 3. While doing some grinding, I actually ran into a shiny Drowsy, so of course I had to grab it and get it on the squad over boring regular Drowsy. I just wish Hypno was better than it is. Speaking of Hypno, while battling some Dimension Grunts in Gravity Cave, our Drowsy hit level 26 and evolved. We clear our way through and make it to Ishtar City, where all the citizens seem to be brainwashed, collecting berries and reciting that they must bring food to their master. And it's here that we meet Gengar X, who shockingly can speak English. He declares himself king of the city and challenges me to a battle. As a Dragon Psychic type, this Pokemon is extremely dangerous for my team. Flute is able to survive a Dragon Breath though and connects Hypnosis, so we have a chance. Now I swap to Kricketune and use 2 Struggle Bugs to bring the Genie to -2 special attack and do a little damage. On the wake up, I let Hysteric go down and get a clean switch to Ensemble. Our guitarist dodges Hypnosis and lands a Sing, so now I Screech once and go back to Triangle. Unfortunately, he's met with Psychic for solid damage, so I bring Hypno into a Hypnosis, but Insomnia keeps him awake. Twice. And the dragon goes back to bed. Triangle gets a solid Fury Cutter off before going down, and then Bremen lands another Sing after surviving Psychics on 1 HP. After 2 more Screeches, I let Ensemble drop the Sucker Punch and bring in Eevee for a few quick attacks and a bite, finally felling the dragon. As Gengar flies off, the citizens regain consciousness and we meet Queen Newfar. Apparently there's an X-Pokemon rampaging in Sunflare Canyon that she wants us to help deal with. First, she tells us to find her grandfather Abraham the Cardinal in Fort Belt City who'll help us grow stronger. While traveling through some mountains, I catch Noibat, and we all know how great Noivern is. I also encountered a Porygon PC that let me pay to teach any Pokemon a move in their move pool, so after spending most of my money on Sound Pledge for Tambourine, I was able to level him up and get a new evolution, Bandion. With our new team members, we scale Mount Starburst and finally come face to face with Abraham and another new evolution, Scaleon. The Cardinal finally starts to shed some light on the happenings around the region. Apparently our father and a friend of his named Victor set up the lab in Hadwarf City where Aster now works. Before all these X-Pokemon attacks started, our dad and Victor actually discovered the existence of the Xenoverse. However, where Verso wanted to raise these Pokemon like we do in our world, Victor wanted to seal the Xenoverse. The two split up, with the latter becoming the mastermind behind Team Dimension. Abraham also theorizes that it was Victor who attacked us and our dad on that day 11 years ago. We then learned that at the beginning of time existed a Pokemon named Vacuum who ruled the universe. Conflicted by darkness and light within itself, the darkness grew to the point that the Pokemon could no longer survive. With its death, it unleashed energy that created life throughout the universe. Following the explosion, 2 separate beings were created. Luxflawn, the light being and ruler of Earth, and Dragalisk, the Dark Lord who had his own domain. The 3 starter Pokemon were also created as elemental guardians and former parts of Vacuum. Although they were supposed to be responsible for creating life, Dragalisk banished these 3 from its domain and they wound up on Earth. As the Earth grew prosperous, the Dark Territory grew more and more uninhabitable to the point that Dragalisk waged war against Luxflawn. Though defeated, the Dark Lord gained enough energy to create soldiers that it controlled, the X-Pokemon. Sensing further casualties, Luxflawn decided its best course of action was to confine its brother to a separate dimension, the Xenoverse. If Team Dimension can break open a portal to the Xenoverse, then Dragalisk may be able to take its revenge on Luxflawn and destroy the world. In order to prevent that from happening, Abraham wants to trigger Xenoversal evolution in our Tri-Shout. He opens a path to the Xenoverse where we're confronted by our Alter, the version of us who grew up here. We take down his dark version of Tri-Shout, and then he says he'll be waiting for hatred to consume me so he can take control of my body. With that, he and his Tri-Shout disappear, leaving behind the Xenoverse core, which forms the Xenoversal Ring. After giving it to Tri-Shout to hold, he changes form again, this time losing control and running away. As we catch up, we're interrupted by Gengar, who orders my own Pokemon to attack me. It starts by one-shotting Kricketune and Hypno with crunches as I send out Bremen. Thanks to Bright Powder, we dodge the 3rd Chomp and land Sing on the rampaging starter. After 2 screeches, he wakes up and uses a new move, Primal Scream, but only does around a third to Ensemble as she brings his defense to -6. We land 3 charge beams to get rid of 1 health bar before finally going down, but now I can use Abraham's Scaleon to finish the job. At -6, a super effective Dragon Claw is able to quell our Tri-Shout and bring him back to his senses. Now that we've gotten the lore and powered up Tri-Shout, it's time to take on Nufar for the 4th gym badge. The Queen leads Birigiri as I send in Bremond. We land to turn 1 Sing, but miss Charge Beam as the electric fish wakes up and sparks us twice before being put back to bed. This time she stays asleep long enough to go down to 3 Charge Beams. Next up is Hanshin, a pure dragon type with the ability Moxie. Ensemble lands her first Sing on the beast and then screeches it to -4 defense before it wakes up and KOs us with Crunch. I bring Triangle in, who outspeeds to do around 70% with X-Scissor before also going down, this time to a Dragon Tail. I don't know why I thought Flute would outspeed. I basically just gave the dragon another attack boost. But now I bring in Trumpet, and thanks to the defense drops, the not very effective Fire Fang is still strong enough for the kill. Nufar's Ace Milotic is next, who hits a big Dragon Pulse as Tri-Shout hangs on to do some chip with Babble. An odd Ice Beam use allows us to get another Babble off before being knocked out next turn with the second. Now I send out Tambourine, who survives an Ice Beam Dragon Pulse combo to KO the water type with Sound Pledges. Last up is Koffagrigus X, who takes around 80% from Sound Pledge and isn't able to finish Bandion off with Ancient Power. This means we can use 1 more to shut this sarcophagus, narrowly giving us the win. With the title badge in hand, we were cleared to head to Sunflare Canyon, where we catch our next big addition to the team, Vroom Bug. This bug sound type has high attack and speed stats, plus its ability Speed Boost basically guarantees it'll be the fastest thing on the field. I also decided to unfortunately box Noibat since it would just take so much grinding to get Noivern, and the pre-evolution is basically useless. As we continue to progress through the route, we find a Ponyta X that seems scared. We try to approach the Pokemon, but its mother Rapidash X springs into battle against us to defend it. Since this horse is a flying type, it isn't too tough for my team to handle, and Tambourine ends up taking it out with Echoed Voice and Sound Pledge spam. The pair runs off, and then we're confronted by Trey again, who tells us that he's unwillingly a part of Team Dimension. Speaking of those villains, we find their colonel, Dahlia, and some grunts threatening Ponyta unless Rapidash follows her commands. The mother decides to take me on, but its rage transforms it into its Stormcloud form, which is an electric type. Oh, that's bad news for me. To make things worse, it has Drizzle, so turn 1 is a guaranteed Thunder to decimate Hypno. Ensemble also drops after missing 2 Sings, but luckily Triangle's Quick Claw pops as he puts the unicorn to sleep. After lowering its special attack by 3 stages with Struggle Bugs and tanking 2 Weather Balls, another Sing connects on the X Pokemon. From here I swap to Bandion, who does a little damage and hangs on through some attacks to land a Sing of his own with 6 HP left. After 3 more Sound Pledges, our evolution goes down, but Kricketune tanks another Weather Ball and it's back to bed for the horse. Now it's time to go for the win. I bring in Trumpet and fire off Primal Screams, which is an 80 base power special sound type move, and thanks to Rapidash not using Thunder or Discharge, our starter is able to calm the rampaging mother. Dahlia then decides Rapidash is too weak to bring to Team Dimension's general, and she takes off for West Star City. As we chase the colonel down, we're stopped by Sergeants A and B. Trey and Sebald, who has a new form now, help make quick work of their Bisharps. Then Ponyta and Rapidash decide to join our teams, but unfortunately I can't use the flying type. While grinding though, I run into another form of Bremond, the bassist, and add the dark sound type to the squad. This means the end for Hypno on our team, who I never really planned on using but had to show off the shiny. In Westar, we meet Minta, the leader of the Ghostbuster Firefighters, and the rest of her team, including a Blastoise with prosthetic cannon vacuums. After battling each member of the team who was being possessed by a Pokemon called Hangid, we defeat the ghost and gain entry to the city's prison, where Gym Leader and Sheriff Caspar await us. I start off by singing his Lampent to sleep with Ensemble. Then I screech twice and eat Shadow Balls so I can bring Base into the not very effective move. Sadly, her first Assurance low rolls, so after a heal we get the knockout. The cowboy then goes right to his ace Cacturn X, who we outspeed and put to bed. Trumpet is able to KO the deputy with a pair of flamethrowers, being hit by Shadow Ball and Shadow Sneak in the process. Trishout also does about half damage to Scarphasmo before being dropped by Thunderbolt. After Ensemble puts Caspar's third Pokemon to sleep, I bring Vroombug in to start getting speed boosts. The Ghost Psychic type hangs on through a Steamroller in pursuit with 1 HP and unfortunately takes Piccolo out with a single Psychic. Ensemble returns to finish the job with Charge Beam as Caspar is down to his last Pokemon, Palisand. I landed every Sing I threw at this thing, eventually taking it out with Bandion's Sound Pledges. With that, we receive the Despair Badge and continue on our chase of Dahlia and her team, putting us aboard the Quasar Express. It's here that we finally come face to face with Team Dimension's General, Victor. He tells us they've hijacked the train to head for Dorado Village and shows us that he's captured Gengar X. As Victor sends out his Tyranitar, memories of that day 11 years ago flow into our mind. Overtaken by rage, our alter seizes control of our body. The clash of power with Victor and his Tyranitar cause an explosion, but Aster's Suicune Mega evolves to cool things down. As we climb to the top of the train car to take on Victor, Dahlia steps in and battles us instead. Her team didn't stand a chance, but I just wanted to highlight her ace Scoville, which is a much cooler take on a pepper Pokemon than the new Scovillain. Anyway, after defeating the Colonel, Victor's T-Tar transforms into an X Pokemon and blasts us into a middle dimension, or a state of limbo. Here we're confronted by our alter again, who says we should keep training so that the next time we're feeling hate, he can beat Victor. With that, we come to on Route 8, free Gengar from his energy prison, and set out for Hypelion City. The 6th gym leader and rap sensation Wallace Daddy has set up a banquet to promote his concert that'll be going on tomorrow. Although his manager claims no sweets were arranged, people scarf down some cream puffs that were laid out without a second thought. Oh, Team Weedle, what have you done? And now, ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Wallace Daddy. Mid-concert, the fans all start throwing up and we find out that the sweets that were laid out at the banquet were the cause. That's one big Slurpuff. Oh, and the ghost hunters are here. Yeah, this isn't Ghostbusters, buddy. I handle the Slurpuff X, it apologizes for waging chemical warfare on the city, and then it actually joins the gym leader's team. Speaking of his team, let's see the star in action. And of course he has a solid gold room. The battle starts out with a Trishout Boom Burst to take out Daddy's Arbok. Next he goes right to his most terrifying Pokemon, Noivern. I immediately swap our starter into base to use as a pivot as the Wyvern takes her out with Dragon Pulse. My whole team easily could have been wiped out by the same, but Kricketune Quick Claw pops to put the dragon to sleep. Now I bring in Ensemble, who fires off Overdrive for 50% and manages to hang on through a Dragon Pulse. I decide to try for another Triangle Quick Claw here, but he goes down and I send out Tambourine. After living through an Air Slash and a Dragon Pulse, our Bandion is able to connect a Sing of his own. Luckily, the dragon stays incapacitated for the next 2 turns as Bremen comes back in and finishes it with another Overdrive. The rapper now sends in his newfound friend Slurpuff X, so I switch to Piccolo, who takes decent damage from Venoshock. After 2 rev-ups, the second being a crit, our bug is taken down, but the toxic treat is at 60% health. This means it's in range of Trishout's Boom Burst, and Wallace sends in Pyroar. After Subwoofer flinches us, which is a physical sound type move, we trade big attacks with the Lion. Needing a clean switch to Ensemble, I decide to sack Bandion off to the ensuing Flamethrower. Our guitarist outspeeds for an Overdrive KO, leaving Daddy with only a Screwroom. The Steel sound type steamrollers our Bremen, meaning now it's all up to Trishout. Our starter is able to survive Ironhead on 4 HP and one-shot the motorcycle with Flamethrower, narrowly earning us badge number 6. By the way, I know Trishout was overleveled for this battle, so I tried to compensate by having Bandion and Vroombug underleveled. On our way out of town, we take down Alice's team again and are now at the prestigious Samuel Oak Airport, where it's time to find our next serious party member. This game uses items called updates to evolve Pokemon that usually have trade or item evolutions. Usually you can find these items from overworld NPCs, or the Pokemon themselves have a chance to hold them in the wild. Xenoverse introduced a second branch of evolution for Porygon 2 called Porygon West. But here's the kicker. The chance of finding a Porygon on this route is 4%. Also, the chance that one Porygon is holding a West update is very slim. I caught 19 Porygon that all had the wrong kind of update before finally finding my West, so this Pokemon better be worth it. I mean, its design is super cool, so that's a good start. As we continue on to Cluster Jungle, we take down some ratty kid and his Decidueye. As a reward, he lets us use his shiny Feraligatr to cross the river to Shylian Temple. Turns out the kid is the son of one of the region's cardinals who watches over the temple. After hearing he was in danger, we rush to his side and find Victor with a Roserade X. Turns out Roserade brainwashed the cardinal into opening a Xenagate for Team Dimension's general, allowing him to obtain X energy. He also tells us that Trey is in the Xenoverse currently looking for dark energy equal to that of our altar. In order to put an end to this chaos, we have to take on Roserade X. But little does Victor know that's exactly what I want. This Pokemon is a sound poison type, and that means she'll be the last piece to the puzzle, completing my squad of 6. Once she's down to her last health bar, I chuck a Xenoball and that's all she wrote. Welcome to the squad, Chimes. While we were dealing with the X Pokemon, Trey returns from the Xenoverse and he's looking a little grayer than usual. His altar reveals a new form of Sabolt, but decides we're not worth his time yet. As the evil pair leaves, we return to the Cardinal's home where he tells us that we're destined to battle Trey. With that, Chua sends us on our way to Vega City where the second gym leader Ginger's father gives us the spare parts. This item evolves Vroombug into Scrivroom, shedding her secondary bug typing for Steel. On the outskirts of town lies Sunshine Circus where supposedly the 7th gym leader has set up shop. However, after taking on a few performers, we're greeted by Gengar X, using 2 of the leader's stolen Pokemon to battle us. Once that's taken care of, we can finally challenge the real gym leader, Henna. Her lead Rapidash drops to a pair of Primal Screams from Trishout who took a bit of damage from 2 flamethrowers, one of which being a crit. Next is Incineroar who crits a Fake Out and kills with Darkest Lariat, but not before taking half its health from Primal Scream. Now I bring in Violin, whose dual Hyper Voices come up just short of a KO. This allows Henna to use a Hyper Potion, but we still get the knockout before the wrestler can take another of my mons down. Pyroar's Flamethrower drops our digital friend, but this allows me to bring in Ensemble, who lives through Fire Blast and destroys the Sound Fire type with a single Thunderbolt. The fiery performer now sends in her ace Toxapex X, who Bremen screeches before dropping the Poison Jab. Overlooking that the fire poison type has an air balloon, I try to Earthquake with Scrivroom, leading to a swift death by Flamethrower. Luckily, Tambourine is able to get a first turn sleep and fire off Hyper Voices to knock the circus tent out before it could wake up. Henna's last Pokemon is Goombear, which melts to the newly learned Boom Burst, earning us the Brand Badge. Since we defeated the ringleader, her grandfather tells us that the real Vega Gym has been shut down for quite some time. He happens to know the whereabouts of the last leader and hands us a plane ticket to another region, but where could it lead? Of course it's Kanto, and we step outside the airport at Vermilion. It's so cool to see the Gen 1 city rebuilt in RPG Maker. But look at what happened to Surge's gym. No, the 8th leader is actually the lieutenant himself? And look at his prosthetic arm. Alright, I'm done fanboying. Let's get this battle going. He leads Blindgrudge, who Poison Jabs as I swap Violin into Trumpet. Our starter proceeds to Flamethrower his lead, Magnezone, Klinklang, and Aggron, who unfortunately hangs on and kills with Stone Edge. Piccolo is able to take the rock monster down with Earthquake, and then Surge sends in his ace Raichu, but now it's an X Pokemon? The pure Steel type hangs on through Earthquake thanks to its Focus Sash, but a non-stab Thunderbolt means Scrivroom can survive and win the battle next turn with a Jet Strike. After giving us the honor badge, Surge recounts the story of how he lost his arm and what happened to his partner Raichu. Apparently they were working for Team Rocket and Giovanni. Once Red disbanded the organization, the lieutenant decided to become a mercenary, joining the army of a nation that was attacking its neighbors. One day, he and Raichu were ambushed by a group of Onyx who resisted their electric attacks. While Surge only lost his arm, his partner Raichu was killed in action. He blacked out and opened his eyes in Team Dimension's base where his arm was replaced and Raichu had been brought back to life by turning it into a machine. He took his Pokemon and retreated back to Vermilion City where he had abandoned his post to once serve as a leader back in his homeland of Eldiw. He then tells us that the Dimension hideout is underneath the casino in Vega City, so our next destination is set. As we head out of the old gym, we pan back to Surge, but why is he talking about Giovanni's son, Silver? Back in our own region, we find the entrance to the Dimension hideout where Trey awaits our final showdown. He leads with a Kaima Ooze that manages to KO Piccolo and bring Chimes into the red before finally going down. Now Trey goes right to Sabolt, who, thanks to Toxic Spikes, is immediately poisoned. Thanks to Roserade's speed, it can do big damage with Venoshock before being taken out by Thunderbolt. Ensemble comes in next and survives a Darkening Bolt to drop Trey's partner with a pair of Uproars. His following Rexqueum doesn't take much damage before getting a KO of his own with Poison Jab. Bandion's Boom Burst just isn't enough to take the Vulture Bat down, so a pair of Night Slashes does our evolution in. Thanks to Chimes' Toxic Spikes, at least Tambourine isn't going down alone. I misclick with Trumpet against Faytail and am forced to take a second play rough before knocking the Fairy out. A familiar face, Rapidash X, hits the field, luckily in its calm form. A Mist Thunder means another KO for Trumpet with Boom Burst, leaving Alter Trey with just a Scizor. Regardless of the bug's Akaberry, its 4 times weakness to fire means a single Flamethrower is all it takes to end this battle. Trey then comes to his senses and realizes that in his quest for power, he's been manipulated by Victor to do his bidding. He then offers to help us, Aster, and Alice defeat Victor, and we gladly welcome him to the team. We all board a rocket heading for the moon, and Trey gives us some Team Dimension uniforms that allow us to breathe in outer space. Sure. Apparently we're heading to the moon because the Xenoverse eclipse, or materialization of the dimensional fault line between our world and the Xenoverse, will take place there. If Victor gets his way, then he'll be able to walk right into the Xenoverse and destroy it from the inside. Now we have the equivalent of admin battles, first taking on the fusion of A and B, Sergeant S. Just as the trainers fused, so did their Bisharps into the Fire Steel Bisharp X. We take the fusion down without a problem and disable the newly constructed Sergeant. Next is a rematch with Dahlia, whose team is still pretty weak. I just wanted to show off Scovile X since I think the design is honestly great. After beating her, she lets us pass, and now it's time for the long-awaited face-off against Victor. He leads our old friend Kricketune, whose Focus Sash lets it survive a Bremen Thunderbolt, so we take a Night Slash before getting the first KO of the battle with another. Tyranitar X, the bug rock type, is next, and thanks to Leech Life, he basically takes no damage before Ensemble gets dropped. Next, I let Chimes do some damage with Hyper Voice, but she's OHKO'd by an Earthquake. Tambourine is unfortunately outsped in crit, but Trishout is able to survive on 1 HP and take the genetically engineered Pokemon down with a pair of Flamethrowers. Igorgian is a Dragon Electric type, basically my worst nightmare. Thunderbolts take out Trumpet and Violin, who at least hit 1 Dazzling Gleam before going down. Thankfully, this thing is a lot frailer on the physical side, so Piccolo is able to get the knockout with a single Earthquake. Victor's last 2 Pokemon are Malamar and Hypno, and since Scrivoom is my last Pokemon, I can U-turn for super effective damage without needing to switch out. With the General finally brought down, Victor leads us to our father. We're shocked to find that Versal doesn't seem like a prisoner at all. He then reveals that he's actually the commander of Team Dimension, a whole step above Victor. As if that wasn't shocking enough, he drops another bomb on us, stating that his real name is Silver, the son of Giovanni. Even our mother's name Clover is a lie. We learn that Giovanni was able to make it to the Xenoverse, where he was ultimately killed by Dragalisk. If even the great Giovanni fell to this creature, then what could Silver do if it ever became a threat? Thus he formed Team Dimension for the sole purpose of destroying the Xenoverse along with its Dark Lord. He even manipulated us into going on this whole adventure since he knew we'd be able to obtain the red and blue energies needed to open the Great Xenogate. Outraged by the fact that we were used by our own father, we lose control and our altar takes over to challenge Silver to a battle. He leads Crobat, who Steel Wings Roserade once and goes down to a metronome boosted Hyper Voice. Not before our dad burns 2 full restores though. Next is Entei, who rips off a Sacred Fire for a kill. I was hopeful that Piccolo could drop the legendary with an Earthquake, but after only doing around 70%, she's also taken out by the powerful Fire type move. This does, however, lead to an easy Tri-Shout kill, who only needs to tank extra sensory before boom bursting. Now Rexquium hits the field, so I sack Bandion to a pair of Earthquakes, and Violin dies to the same after connecting a Dazzling Gleam. It's immediately back to Tri-Shout for a Boom Burst kill, but as Feraligatr comes in, I need to swap to Bremond. We eat Waterfall, and although Silver's starter hangs on through Thunderbolt to finish us with Outrage, it also drops to Life Orb damage. This leaves us with a one-on-one against the new Mega Weavile. We survive Night Slash and are able to take down the ice-coated Weasel with a single Flamethrower, giving us the win. The battle quelled our rage, and as our altar recedes, we believe it's all over. Just then, Silver unveils the captive Shulong and Shyleon. By forcing us to battle as well, Tri-Shout's energy was released, and therefore the Great Xenagate has officially opened. Finally, our father has an ace up his sleeve to take on Dragalisk. Mewtwo X, Giovanni's only surviving Pokemon from the first battle with the Dark Lord, who Team Dimension genetically manipulated to keep it alive. Silver goes ahead through the portal, but has Mewtwo stand guard, so the only way through is another battle. We eventually wear down the legendary's 5 health bars, and Tri-Shout delivers the final blow after the Psychic type stupidly uses Fire Punch when it could have killed with Psystrike. As Mewtwo flees, we chase Silver down in the Xenoverse and are confronted by the Dark Lord himself, Dragalisk. Jumping straight into battle with the monster, a few turns pass and we get another cutscene. The light being Luxflawn appears to help us battle its dubious brother. After the Dark Lord's attacks have no effect on the goat, it fires off an Astral Lance to one-shot Dragalisk. Gengar then shows up to reveal that Luxflawn can't kill his master, or else the being of light will also cease to exist. As Dragalisk takes over Silver's body, Luxflawn shares its power with us to do battle. Porygon West survives a power gem from the Ice Ground type and gets a huge para with Tri-Attack. I lost plenty of times before this fight, and I think I only won because of paralysis luck. Ensemble was even able to take the Dark Lord out with a healthy Squirvroom still in the back. Suddenly, the 2 rulers disappear. It seems they've merged into a shell of what was once Vacuum. Gengar says if we don't destroy that thing now, it'll be the end of the universe. As we all fire off our strongest attacks, it looks as though the crisis has been averted. Guess you spoke too soon, Alice. Just when all seems lost, our altar communes with us and says that we've given meaning to his seemingly meaningless existence. The harmony between terrestrial and xenoversal energies triggers a true evolution of Tri-Shout into its astral form. With our newfound power, we step up to take on this incredible monster. And get crushed. I mean, look at how little damage our Tri-Attack does. I couldn't even begin to guess how many times I attempted this battle, but with the current setup, I only got this thing to its last health bar once, and it was mostly due to a lucky Tri-Attack burn at the start of the battle. So, in order to progress, it's with a heavy heart that I decided to break one of my rules. No items in battle. After a max revive, an ether, and a hyper potion, we still barely made it out of this one alive as Trumpet delivered the final blow with a flamethrower on 13 HP. The 2 Pokemon split apart, but Dragalisk still has enough energy to destroy the Xenoverse along with anyone in it. As Luxflawn creates a portal for us to get back to Earth, Trey says he knows what his destiny was all along. He reveals to us that he's actually a human bomb and says he'll stay back to hold off Dragalisk. Silver even offers for him to be part of our family, but he declines. We decide to hang back and take the Dark Lord on one last time in a double battle with our friend, but Trey tricks us, throwing us through Luxflawn's portal and staying in the Xenoverse forever. With Trey saving the world, the main story is concluded, so all that's left is to become champion of the Eldiw region. 3 months pass and we receive an invitation from the 4 Cardinals to take them on at the peak of Mount Zodiac. After grinding the team up to level 65, it was time for our first battle against Cardinal Chua. I was assuming he'd use Grass type, so I led Roserade, but it turns out he's a Psychic type trainer. I start things off by setting up Toxic Spikes as Sigilif hits a not very effective Air Slash. Next turn I do 70% with Hyper Voice, and after taking another Air Slash, Chua switches to Claydol who resists the attack. I decide to swap Violin into a crit extrasensory, then recover and eat an Earth Power. After a tri-attack, we're crit again, but this time as I recover, the Shylian Temple Cardinal brings in Nebiura, who's poisoned by our spikes. I had a brain fart and forgot that Psychic resists sound, so after using Boom Burst, we're brought into the red by Psychic. I bring Piccolo into the next, and then Ironhead and Earthquake for the kill while Chua full restores his alien. Then I U-turn Claydol to guarantee I get the KO and switch Ensemble into the Ace Tapu Fini X. Thunderbolt is strong enough to two-shot with some poison help, but the second one crit, so it didn't matter anyway. Since Dark Pulse did half our health, I decide to Volt switch into Scrivroom as Persage uses Future Sight. After an Ironhead kill, it just takes a Jet Strike to finish Sigilif, winning us our first Cardinal battle. Next up is Neva, the Ice Cardinal. Trishout's Flamethrower is able to KO her lead Avalugg and Beartic, who must have been holding Bright Powder since we missed our first attempt and had to take a big Stone Edge because of it. Trumpet is also able to drop her Sasquatch with Starburst before being outsped and killed by Tapu Lele X's Night Days. I send Piccolo out next, whose Ironhead brings the Guardian low as it fires back with Ice Beam. After a full restore from Neva, I thought an Ironhead plus Jet Strike would pick up the knockout, but we come up just short and our motorcycle pays for it. At least Lele's Life Orb takes it down with us. I blindly send Chimes in against Walrein, and even through a crit Ice Beam, we pick up the kill with 2 Hyper Voices followed by a Venoshock. Cardinal number 3 is Peyote of Sunflare Canyon. His lead Skarmory and Braviary are decimated by Bremen's Thunderbolts. Then he sends out his ace Tapu Koko X, who outspeeds and knocks off our Zap Plate, allowing the flying type to survive T-Bolt in the red. Knowing a full restore is coming, I use Ensemble's signature move Electro Swing, which is a 100% accurate paralyzer. Since we've lost our plate, Boom Burst is now our strongest attack, which we use to KO the legendary. Since Xatu is part Psychic, I go back to Thunderbolt for the Oko, leaving Peyote with only a Harrock. Thunderbolt does just over 50% to the bird as we survive its retaliatory shock with 10 HP. Now it just takes 2 more as the Cardinal heals his Thunderbird to complete our Bremen sweep, and boy did that feel good. The last Cardinal, however, won't be so easy. That's right, it's Old Man Abraham and his dragons. He leads Turtonator as I start things off with Bandion. I try to keep the turtle out of healing range by Shadow Balling for a bit and then take just shy of 50% from Dragon Pulse. This turn I opt for Sing, which misses, and we're brought all the way down to 9 HP. With his Dying Breath, Tambourine hits another Shadow Ball and I bring in Piccolo. Not expecting a switch, I go for Earthquake, which Dragonite negates. Since I was going to swap anyway, I used the not very effective U-turn to get a sliver of chip and then sack Chimes off to Dragon Rush. With a clean switch to Trishout, I can Starburst for a kill and Haxorus hits the field. Turn 1 I Primal Scream to drop the dragon's attack, which lets us live through an Outrage. Then Starburst finishes the Gen 5er and does big damage to Scaleon, who Dragon Claws Trumpet for a knockout. From here I can go to Porygon West and use a few Dazzling Gleams to drop the Dragon evolution as Abraham heals. Then we see the last Alolan Guardian X Pokemon, Tapu Bulu. I hard swap to Scrivroom, who dodges Dragon Rush. After Ironheading the Dragon Dark type, its move connects and one-shots Piccolo. Now I go to Ensemble for an Electro Swing as Dragon Rush misses. Then I get 2 Boom Bursts off as we get a full para and drop to the Dragon move. We go back to Violin and Abraham's fate is sealed. The Cardinal uses a full restore, but our Dazzling Gleam hits too hard and outright kills the dragon. Now it's back to Turtonator, who doesn't have enough health to survive one last Dazzle, clearing our path to the champion. But who could they be? Aster? I gotta say, I really didn't see this one coming. Let's see what our friends got in store for us. I lead Roserade against his Meganium and set up 2 layers of Toxic Spikes as the Grass Starter fails to get an Ancient Power boost. After a crit Hyper Voice and a 3rd Ancient Power, I repeat my attack into a full restore. I'm not using Venoshock because I'm waiting for what happens here, a switch to the Fairy Steel type Grudako. Since I stuck to my guns, we get a one-shot as the origami Pokemon hits the field, and Aster sends in his first problem Pokemon, Drampa. After a poison-boosted Venoshock, I have to let Chimes drop to Draco Meteor, but now the dragon is at -2 special attack. Next turn, Violin is able to finish the Grandpa off with a Dazzling Gleam, and we're greeted with problem number 2, Electaburst. I swap Ensemble into a Thunderbolt and then outspeed for an Electro Swing to paralyze this powerhouse. I get 2 full paras here, but we need to sack Bremen, so after doing around 40% with Boom Bursts, we're finally KO'd by Thunderbolt. Now I bring Piccolo into what feels like a premature full restore from Aster, but luckily our Giga Impact crits for a kill. Since we have to recharge, the champion is free to bring in his Mega Suicune and get a defenseless kill with Aura Sphere. Then I go to the defensive Bandion and start building up echoed voice damage as we're hit with Ice Beams. 3 hits later and we've taken Aster's ace down. However, he makes a good play here by going to Milamute to Extreme Speed Air Evolution before it could use its base 160 power echoed voice. Tri-Shout should clean this ice type up no problem, but it outspeeds for a Rock Slide flinch. Luckily, we get some bad AI where instead of killing us, Milamute went for extreme speed, so Trumpet is able to get a Flamethrower KO. Last up is the now poisoned Meganium, who's outsped for one last Flamethrower, sealing the win and our title of True Chosen One. Pokemon Xenoverse is a game I've known about for years, but have never had the opportunity to play. While sound types were pretty rough to use through most of this game, I had a lot of fun with this challenge and really loved getting to use a full team of new Pokemon. Team Weedle did such an incredible job with this game, and they continue even now to put out updates and new content, so definitely check them out. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next one. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.